So I know you're likely anxious to get into Revit right away. But before we do, let's talk about a few high-level concepts first. For starters, just what exactly is BIM? Well, as you may know, BIM stands for Building Information Modeling. And this term has been in the industry for many years now, and it was actually coined by Autodesk several years ago. And it's used to describe the basic process of creating virtual models that represent actual building facilities. Now, Revit is often highly touted as purpose-built for building information modeling. And this is certainly true, but it often leads to some confusion that somehow Revit and BIM equal the same thing. Revit and BIM are not the same thing. Revit is a tool to help us achieve BIM. And BIM is actually a process that we follow to create building model data that is essentially two things: coordinated and computable. Now, those are the two most important tenets of BIM, in my opinion. If all of the parts and pieces that make up your BIM project are fully coordinated with one another and don't require any manual updates to keep them in sync, and if you have a robust and rich data source of information that can be used both internally by the system and exported out to the project team to do meaningful computations, then you have BIM. Some of those computations might be things like energy analysis or calculating structural loads. We might want to do lighting analysis or heating and cooling. Any of those things become possible when you have a rich and robust BIM. Now, there's lots of different ways that you can achieve BIM, but Revit is an excellent tool to help us achieve it because it does many of these things that I've just described natively. Now, it's important to understand that 3D is not the only component that makes BIM BIM. Often when you hear BIM, in the same sentence, you'll hear people talking about 3D. And you can be left with the impression that in order to be BIM, you have to be in 3D, or somehow if you have 3D, then you automatically have BIM. Now, don't get me wrong, 3D is very important. If your primary goal is to perform clash detection between, say, your structure and your mechanical systems, or if you want to make sure that your stair tower fits in the overall architecture, 3D can be pretty important. If you need to do visualization and get high quality renderings and so forth, 3D is going to be pretty important. However, 3D is not the only aspect that makes BIM special. Remember that it's BIM, and I think the I is sometimes even more compelling than the M. So think about cost estimating tasks or specification writing or calculating energy loads or doing your heating and cooling analysis. All of these things require data. And that data is what we mean by the I in BIM. So when you have all of this data, instead of manually computing all the various things that we need to do to get a proper design, why not let the computer do what it does best? Compute stuff. So this is what BIM is all about. So again, let's not focus just on the modeling. Let's also think about the I. So if we've got the two of those together in a fully coordinated package, in the way that Revit gives us, then what we've got is a fully implemented BIM solution. So with that introduction in mind, let's go ahead and jump into Revit.